Good evening. Welcome to the News Charter School Board of Directors meeting for March 22nd, 2022. I will call the roll to establish a quorum. Nicole? Here. Michelle? Here. Paul?
Here.
And I am here, so that is 4, and that is a quorum. So, having established a quorum, I hereby call the News Charter School Board of Directors meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. on March 22nd, 2022. We need to move to the ethics statement. Conflict of interest reminder for North Carolina General Statute 138A-15E. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Okay. Next is the reading and approval of our February meeting minutes. Before I entertain a motion, are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, we can read these aloud or silently, or if everyone has read them, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? We can do that now.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I was not here at the last meeting.
Gotcha. Okay. Aye. Aye. All right. Minutes are approved. It's kind of nice to be able to do that. Okay. Public comment. Brad, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Carpenter is on with us, but is not going to be presenting his micro-training tonight, but I'm sure we will be back to that soon. And we are very excited that he's going to be helping us a lot when we start working on our new committee structure. Dr. Blackwell, do we have any correspondence from our authorizer?
We do not.
All right. We are just flying. And now it is time for the superintendent's report.
All right.
You have the floor.
I have uploaded 4 documents to the drive that are also in the packet. So if you want to go into the drive and just go ahead and open the NCS lottery year over year. The 22-23 BOD budget, the salary schedule, and the 2022 period schedule. I'll be referencing those documents. So my first item is to just review the lottery with everyone. I have the last 3 years of lottery data to share. I'll start in 21-22. We did have, in that year, 518 applications. We had 47 open seats, and we had 72 sibling, staff, and board member applicants. In the 21-22 lottery, which was last year, we had 745 applications, 64 seats, and 76 sibling, staff, and board member lottery applicants. This year, we did our lottery on last Thursday. We had 626 applications, we had 96 open seats, and we had 61 sibling, staff, and board member lottery applications. So we did see a decrease of 119 applications for this past lottery that happened last week. But it is important to note that because we had a consistently high kindergarten pool, 77 in 2021, 101 last year, and 106 this year, we have added another kindergarten class. So we will have 5 classes of kindergartners next year.
That's super exciting.
So we are very excited about that. And we know that we grow from K up. And so by adding more students there, we are starting to add to our student population. So just to highlight that, we did lose from last year 119 applications, but considering the 2 new schools that are coming into the area and the increased competition, we were expecting that. So we're still really pleased with the outcome of the lottery.
Great, yay. And I'm super excited that we're gonna have a lot of little ones.
Lots of little ones.
That'll be awesome.
Lots of little ones. 4 sets of twins.
Wow.
Yes. So that will be good fun.
Yeah.
The next 2 items are for approval. And I will say that in this budget that I'm asking for approval for, it is based on the pay scale that I need approval for. So when we talk about the budget, just go ahead and know that this budget is based on the Phase 3 pay scale. So we can approve them both together, you can do it separate, however you'd like to do it. But we based our ADM for budgeting this year on 916 with an EC headcount of 85, a total revenue of a little over $9 million. Our salaries and benefits is at $3.9 million. Total expenses is a little over $9 million, so it leaves us with a net surplus of about $3,000. Now, when we budget, we try to get as close to even as possible, understanding that there are no grants in here, there's no fundraising expectations, there's no resource development, this is just straight revenue and expenses. So anything that Ms. Harris does with resource development, anything that we get in terms of grants from the federal government and the state, that is all gravy. That is not included here because we do not want to put something in here that we are not guaranteed.
Great.
So the budget that needs to be submitted to the state is before you, surplus of around $3,400. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
What has the net surplus been? What was it last year? Do you know?
It was, we budgeted last year and it was about 9.2. We budgeted for 925 last year.
So you're saying the top number was like 9.2.
Well, I was trying, the net surplus deficit.
Oh, the net surplus at the bottom of last year, it was about 28,000.
28,000.
And so I know that the finance committee didn't meet, but you did share this with them, and I talked with Benji, and he said that they were good with this. But I knew since they didn't meet that you might not have heard that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have their stamp of approval.
Absolutely. Any other questions on this? Do y'all want to talk about the salary schedule and then we can vote? We can make a motion?
Yeah.
Does that work? Okay. All right, let's do that if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. So the certified salary schedule and the classified miscellaneous salary schedule is representative of Phase 3. So when I put together the increased compensation last year, I did it in phases, Phase 1, 2, and 3. And Phase 1 was approved and the teachers received that increase in January of last year. Phase 2 was approved and they received that increase in August. This is Phase 3, which is the final piece. Interestingly enough, whenever we were doing this last year, we did not know that the state was going to put into place a 2.5% increase for your teachers. So when that happened, we were already prepared for it with our Phase 2. So our teachers were able to get their raise in August. Currently, there are teachers that are now being back paid for that raise since that has been put through. So we were kind of ahead of the game in that. So that was really nice. But this is Phase 3, and it accounts for the additional 2.5% increase that the state is putting into place in August.
Okay.
So this puts us at or above the state scale, depending on years of experience and education.
Great.
Dr. Blackwell, does that include the county stipend?
Does not.
Okay.
No, but if you'll notice, there is a bonus structure in here. It is obviously pending fund availability, and I will say that this bonus, the funds for this bonus are not in the budget.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that with our grants that'll be coming in and our ESSER funds that'll be coming in, that we can't make it happen. It just, we're not gonna budget for it right now. But there is, on page 3, a percentage for a bonus structure for staff pending availability of funds.
Great.
Which kind of helps offset the lack of a supplement that they get in the county.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any questions? And so you're asking for approval on both, and you said that this phase 3 is already incorporated into the overall budget.
It is.
Okay. All right, well, unless people have other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget as proposed and the salary schedule as proposed for the coming year.
Great.
Second?
Wonderful. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Teachers, thank you as well.
Yes.
The last piece of my report tonight is on the 7-period day. And it is just a very brief overview of what we are moving towards in the fall of 2022, which is in just a few months. So this is just a brief presentation that you can flip through, but I'd like to give a little bit of credit to Mr. Ward, who helped put this together. And he pulled this second slide out, which I feel like is really representative of a lot of things that are happening at news right now. It's a Henry Ford quote: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always done. And we know that in order to impact change, do what's best for kids, hard decisions have to be made, changes are necessary. So with that being said, we are moving towards a 7-period school day in August. And I've highlighted a couple of things that I want to bring to light for our community. But I want to first note that 7-period day is a common tenet of high-performing K-12 charter schools and private schools as well. So some of the schools that use this model are Cardinal Gibbons, Ravenscroft, Raleigh Charter, Carey Academy, the Community School of Davidson, Triangle School of Math and Science, Franklin Academy, Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy, Henderson Collegiate, and Pine Lake Prep. All of those are top-performing charter schools or private schools in our state, and all use a 7-period day. So some of the benefits of this plan are it will close the gap for subject matter. Students take Spanish 1 first semester, and they don't take Spanish 2 until second semester next year. That's a whole year of time that they've lost in between subjects. That'll no longer be the case. Teachers get daily contact with students for the entire year. There's a continuity of learning in that it is every day. You fall into kind of a routine with it as well. And it also aligns really beautifully with our early college program through JCC. There is less impact on income of other days and teacher absences. Students get 2 elective choices for all students 6-12. They get a built-in study period, all students 6-12, and it provides more academic elective opportunities because it allows for more space in the day to provide courses. So what will it look like? The bell schedule is going to change. Everybody goes to homeroom, and I'm speaking now for 6th grade through 12th grade, because it's all going to be combined. Homeroom is from 7:45 to 7:55. Then they have 50-minute periods from period 1 to period 7, starting at 8 and ending around 2:50, transition times built in. So a sample teacher schedule and a sample student schedule are listed there, but essentially a high school teacher will teach 5 periods and we'll have 2 planning periods, which is the equivalent of 1 block of planning like they're accustomed to. Middle school teacher will teach the same, 5 middle school courses, 2 planning periods. And then a student schedule could look like there are 4 core classes in the morning, lunch, a study hall, and their 2 electives. So it's all coming together. Students are currently registering, just with anything else, we are doing our absolute best to mitigate anything that comes up, but this is new for everybody, and so we are trying to make this as seamless as possible. But after our meeting tonight, we will be emailing the families and the students to make the official announcement that we are going to make this happen. So I will answer any questions that you have.
Can you say a little more about how it aligns with JCC? I'm thinking it makes sense to me, the length of the class periods, but I'm thinking about students who might have to drive.
Right. Well, we have, that's gonna be part of the nuts and bolts almost, in terms of the students will register, and then we will sit down and plug in what needs to go where.
So they could have a study hall potentially when they need to drive.
Right.
I got you, okay, yeah, that makes sense, okay,
And the JCC classes on average are 55 minutes.
okay,
So that also fits in really nicely.
right,
And their instructors are going to come here, and some of our students are gonna go there, so
right,
they'll need to be aligned to make that work.
right. How long do you guys have between classes? I looked at it, but I don't remember.
5 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
And for those that are buying lunch here, there's enough time for them to get that.
Yeah, and the lunch program right now is fantastic. They have it all lined up down there. Kids
Okay.
come grab it, or the TAs will deliver the bags to the classes and they distribute it. I mean, it is a beautiful thing.
So someone going to period 5, they pick their lunch up and they go to period 5 and they eat there at their desk or.
They can, but we are trying to provide spaces for students to have lunch so teachers can have duty-free lunch. So there'll be some
Okay.
rotations in there,
Okay.
kids spending outside. Some may be traveling to JCC.
Okay,
So once we have the registrations complete, Mr. Williams will put all of that into PowerSchool, run the scenarios. That's when we'll be able to see, okay, math one's gonna be block 1, or period 1 and period 2, and English 1 will be period 3 and period 4, whatever. And then we'll make sure that aligns with JCC, and then we'll plug it in from there. But it's a
Will some classes be 2 periods long?
some will be, if they're JCC longer periods that have labs.
Okay.
and you run it to basically to see if it doesn't pop up any faults, I mean, like a typical, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Williams spends a lot of time running scenarios. We're grateful for him.
sounds great, very exciting.
That's all I have for you.
All right. Okay, thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. Benji isn't here, but I do know that finance didn't meet, so I don't think there's a finance report. This is our last month for these standing committees. I know executive committee didn't meet, finance didn't meet, academic affairs didn't meet, resource development didn't meet, board development, we did meet, yay!
Yeah.
So the one big thing is that our bylaws have been approved by all the charter schools. So I have sent those to Mr. Williams and he has got them up on the website. So they are there. Yay, finally. It's been a long time in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And then also at the last board meeting, do we want to talk about that or do it? at all?
It's under unfinished business.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So do we just wait till then?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just wait.
That's all I have to report.
All right. Strategic planning did not meet. Facilities did meet.
We did meet, and we have a meeting on Friday to talk more about continuing the conceptual design phase of the new building.
Great. All right. Our ad hoc committee, strategic planning ad hoc committee did not meet. Systematic oversight calendar.
Nothing other than I just reviewed it before the meeting, and Dr. Blackwell has everything, is covering everything in the calendar, and we're on target. So.
Yeah, great. I think after we go. Okay. Wonderful, thank you. Policy committee, we're good on that, right?
We're get with Brad and give some time and work on that. So
Okay.
I'd like to do that sometime before the end of the year. So at least I'll accomplish it this year. April, March is not, it's going to be just as busy for me.
Okay.
If we can probably connect sometime in April,
Okay.
you can just ping me and we'll put some dates on the calendar.
Awesome.
Thank you for your help, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome, wonderful. Okay, now we get to unfinished business. So board meeting location and schedule.
Yes, so, you ready to start?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so the Board Development Committee met on, I believe it was March 17th, to discuss a recommendation for how and when board meetings will be conducted. And that was at the request of the board from the last board meeting. And so at the meeting, we talked about different kind of considerations and how allowing increased participation from the board of directors and stakeholders. We also discussed things about which way would be easier to share data so that everyone could see the data as it was being presented. We talked about kind of some things that would factor in is what, if any, burden on administration there would be. And then I know one comment or one thought that came up about public comments, that I know there have been some individuals that did not want to make public comment when we were meeting virtually because they didn't want to broadcast it. And the issue with that is that even when we are having our in-person meetings, they're still being broadcasted live. So even if someone were making public comment here at an in-person board meeting, it's still going to be broadcasted live.
And recorded. And posted.
Yeah, posted on our page. But we did talk about that. So the plan that the proposed schedule we came up with is in the packet. And so what we came up with was to do 8 required meetings, which is required by our bylaws. So January meeting would be virtual. There would be no meeting in February. March would be an in-person meeting. April, virtual. June would be virtual, and that is one of the meetings that we would use to prevent academic data and review. I don't know, I think and Dr. Blackwell had mentioned it would be easier to do it that way because the data she's going to be presenting.
And so no meeting in May.
Oh, yes, I skipped over May, I'm sorry.
That's okay, just making sure.
Yep, I should have put in here no meeting, not no meeting. So yes, May would be no meeting, and June again the virtual, and we would go to the academic and data review at that meeting. July would be no meeting, August would be virtual, September would be in person, October virtual, as well as doing the looking over the academic data review again in October. And then November would be in person, and December there would be no meeting. And if there were any additional meetings, that they would need to be virtual, or they would be virtual.
Okay. And so
And one of the things too that from an administration standpoint that came across, particularly when you're talking about some of our principals and things, they will have been here usually by 7 a.m. every single morning. And then some of them have athletics that they're having to be the staff person for the school. And it makes it a really long day.
Right.
So it allows, when we do the virtual meetings, it allows our administration as well to be able to actually leave the school and go home and maybe eat some dinner.
Right.
And without it being such a long day. Of course, particularly when they have those longer meetings and then they have to then drive home later, it just makes for beyond a 12-hour workday.
Right.
So,
and you did get input from.
yes, so Ms. Nowitzki is also on our board development committee. She was present at the meeting.
Okay.
And it just so happened, Dr. Blackwell, we had a question, so Ms. Nowitzki asked her question, so she stepped in. Yeah, so she got a little input there too.
Okay, great. So,
I appreciate that consideration about the long days.
yeah, it makes sense because you can't really go home and come back.
Yeah.
For meetings like this.
I've always heard, you work smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with hard work, but,
Right.
it's a good point. Just because it's the way we've always done it doesn't mean it has to be that way.
Yeah, that phrase. Oh, that's great.
Anything, that all sounds good. I'm ready to make the motion.
I will entertain a motion.
Can I get the brief recap? I was listening on the way here, but I'm guessing this is about the in-person meeting that I was late for.
Yes.
That's the proposal from the board development.
So the proposal would be January virtual, February no meeting, March would be in person, April would be virtual, May no meeting, June would be virtual where we do our academic data review.
And Dr. Blackwell specifically asked that those two be virtual for her to be able to present her information.
July would be no meeting. August would be virtual, September in person, October virtual with the academic data review, November in person, and then December no meeting. And if we had to call any additional meetings, they would be virtual unless otherwise indicated. But it would be virtual.
So this is the switch to the 8 required rather than, we've always done 11. December was the only month that we typically didn't have a scheduled regular meeting. And the other thing that, did you hear the considerations that they took into consideration, things like people were concerned about doing public comment virtually because they didn't want to be recorded and broadcast, but even if they were here, this is live streamed, it would be
Same thing.
broadcast and recorded. And I think also, just for the record, when we start talking about participation, I think there were a few people who thought that our in-person meetings would be very well attended. And I know those of you on the camera can't see this, but there are literally no people in attendance.
Well, there's Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams, who is kindly running everything behind the scenes. But other than Mr. Williams, it's us. So I think that it's easier for people to participate. We've gotten a lot of people to participate and watch our meetings live.
Got 14 right now, which is
And we have 14 now, so.
Yeah, there was 20, when I was rolling here, I glanced at the screen while driving, and there was like 20 to 23. So,
Right.
I mean,
And there have been a lot more
50,
than that.
up to 50.
Yeah. So anyway, so all of those, did I leave anything out?
Well, yeah, one of the big things too, we talked about, Ms. Lewinsky was also in the meeting as well. And so we talked about from an administration standpoint, they get here at 7 a.m. in the morning.
I call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are you caught up?
Yeah, well, as well as I'm gonna do.
Okay.
So a couple of things I want to mention here. One, this represents the new bylaws
Yes.
on the number of meetings. So it's a direct reflection of that's in there.
Yes.
Second thing that's notable, I believe, is it shows that we're operating as a board. We've talked about operating above the line, how important it was to stay above that line. And we're doing that. And I think doing that is showing that we can use our time more efficiently and take advantage of technology so that we can do that better and be a more productive board so the staff and the team can do their job and enable them to do their job best. And I think this does that. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Board Development Committee's proposal on these required meetings per year. And I'll lay that on the table.
Perfect. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? One other thing I would like to note is that, to your point, Paul, that one thing that we haven't talked about is that it does take time for everyone here to set all of this up and to hook up all the equipment and to print agendas and to do all of the little things that, we don't have to do during virtual meetings. So,
Time is money.
yes. Any other questions, comments before we move to vote?
I would just add that I was kind of torn on this issue, but after speaking to administration and talking to the members of the committee, one thing, as horrible as COVID has been, COVID gave us an opportunity to think outside the box and how things can be done more efficiently. And, sometimes I think in our culture, we think working harder there's a direct correlation between working harder and an outcome, and that's not necessarily true. So, I think we really need to honor everyone's time, and particularly the administration and staff's time. And I was impressed with everyone's comments.
Great, thank you. Okay, and Jason, you haven't been here since we voted, but we don't have to call individual names. I can just say all in favor, which is kind of nice.
Oh, I missed my name.
Oh, well, I can call just your name if you want.
You're always the trendsetter, right?
Okay, so we have a motion on the table and a second. So all in favor of approving the proposal from the Board Development Committee as written, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And it passes. All right, wonderful. Thank you to the Board Development Committee for putting that together. Moving on to new business, COVID-19 protocols. We do still need to vote on our mask or no mask, as the case may be, policy through the end of the school year. So I will entertain a motion regarding our COVID-19 protocols.
Make a motion to maintain our current mask optional policy and related details to that.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions or comments?
In the prior, the motion that we passed last month referenced situations in which masks were required, maybe on transportation and those kind of things. Is that still an issue, or do we need to specify any, well, we said transportation and any situation by which the smart school toolkit would require masking?
Yes.
Do we need to add that?
Transportation still.
Yeah.
Because that's part of our Carolina High School Athletic Association protocols.
Okay,
And so but it is the same as last time,
Yeah.
which is, I think, what is,
That's
what, yeah. So, yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
I will amend my own to include that if that's.
I don't think we need to. Your original motion
Yeah.
just said it was based,
To
continue the same,
Right.
Yes.
And who
And
seconded
associated
that?
stuff.
associated stuff.
Yeah.
Associated
stuff.
Very technical, very technical.
All right, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move to vote to continue our mask optional policy as voted on last month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. All right, the last thing under new business is our committee structure discussion, and this is based on having new bylaws. So under our new bylaws, we now have 3 standing committees. Our previous standing committees that we've been running through every month no longer exist after this. And so our 3 committees are the Governance Committee, the Financial Oversight Committee, and the Risk Management Oversight Committee. And we need to have 2 board members on each of these 3 committees. So I have spoken with board members, and so I'm just going to go through and kind of verify that everybody is still good with what we've talked about. In terms of the Governance Committee, Michelle, are you willing to chair that committee?
Yes.
Okay, and Nicole, are you willing to sit on that committee as a member?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. The Financial Oversight Committee, based on our bylaws, our treasurer is required to chair that. So Benji Woodard will be chairing the Financial Oversight Committee. Then also, Paul, are you still willing to sit on that committee?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And then our Risk Management Oversight Committee is our brand new committee that we will be working. Dr. Carpenter is going to be helping us on all 3 of these committees, but that one in particular. Jason, are you still willing to chair that?
Yes.
Wonderful. And I did talk with Robbie Taylor offline, and he is willing to sit on that committee as well. So those are the 3 committees and the members of those committees. We do need to do a couple of other things. We need to think about our ad hoc committees and kind of start over from there. I know that the strategic planning ad hoc committee, we don't need that at this point. Nicole, the systematic oversight calendar committee, do you feel like you can just keep us posted? Do you want to keep that?
Yes, I think we can just as long as Dr. Blackwell and I are going back and forth and making sure everything's on that calendar, yes.
Okay, I think And the policy committee, do you think we need to continue that as an ad hoc?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so Brad can just work off on
on.
Okay. The one thing that I do know, and Robbie wasn't able to join us tonight, but that he was going to request, given that we no longer have a standing facilities committee, he was going to request to see if we could vote to create an ad hoc facilities committee, especially given the work that they're getting ready to do to sort of get started again on the building. Is that something that, I'll entertain a motion to create an ad hoc facilities committee.
So,
Thank you.
Second.
And Paul second, thank you very much. Any questions, discussion on that?
makes sense.
Yeah, I think we need that. And Robbie did say that he would be willing to chair that. And he's done a great job on our facilities standing committee, so. Okay, well, with no other comments or questions, I will, let's vote on, I'm so used to saying I will call the roll. And I don't have to do it tonight. Let's vote on this motion to create an ad hoc facilities committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so we have an ad hoc facilities committee. I will officially ask Robbie to chair that, and we will find another member as well. But I think we can move forward knowing that he's planning to chair that. The last thing that, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I fell a little bit behind.
I'm sorry.
So we talked about the strategic oversight,
Yes,
and then we talked about the policy committee. I feel like I missed one.
we don't need the policy committee, and we don't need the strategic planning ad hoc.
That's fine. That's okay, thank you.
Anything else? Sorry, I was flying. We do have one last thing to talk about in terms of our committee structure. We need to determine and establish a frequency for committee meetings. And I reached out to Dr. Carpenter to see what his suggestion was. And he actually suggests that each of the committees meets at a different frequency based on the work that they do. So he recommends that the Financial Oversight Committee meets monthly, even in the months that we don't have a standing regular board meeting. And that he recommends that they report out to the board at every meeting. He recommends that the Risk Management Oversight Committee meets quarterly and reports out quarterly. And he recommends that the Governance Committee meets as needed and reports out as needed, because that's, dependent on a lot of things in terms of the work of the board.
It could be once a week, as it has been in the past.
Yeah, when you're working on bylaws,
It might be once a week.
it's
Right.
way too frequently.
Exactly.
I think we need to vote as a board on frequency of meetings for the committees. That's the recommendation. So I will entertain a motion, and then we can discuss if we need to make any changes.
Okay, could we move to take the recommendations from Dr. Carpenter on the meeting?
Yeah.
I move that we take the recommendations that Dr. Carpenter gave on meeting frequency for the existing committees we have.
Perfect. Thank you. Second?
Second.
Paul, thank you. Okay, so conversation, discussion, questions. Does that work for everybody? Yes? Nobody's concerned? Okay, then given that, let's vote. So all in favor of approving the meeting frequency recommended by Dr. Carpenter, please say aye. All opposed?
Sorry.
I heard you. I saw you mouth. Okay.
Opposed or?
No.
It was aye. It was aye.
Okay.
Yeah, she just mouthed it.
I can't type and speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you on mute?
Get your space bar, get your space bar.
Couldn't resist.
It's just you on mute. Okay.
I've not been on meetings, have I?
Yeah. All right. Okay, so motion approved and, this is what happens when you get us all in the same
Same
room.
room.
Yeah,
I tried to cut off my camera and walk away, but it didn't work.
Okay, wonderful, and the last thing then is, and I will, follow up with Benji since he's the only chair of the committees that isn't here, but for you, Michelle, and you, Jason, we can talk about this offline, but Dr. Carpenter has an online calendar that we can go in and set up a time with him for each of the committees to work with him and discuss kind of what exactly they're supposed to do, make sure that we kind of have everything lined up in terms of what the questions that we need to be asking, particularly for the risk management and the financial oversight committees, because they're oversight committees now, as they should be. So Melissa and her team get to do the vast majority of the work, and we're just really there to kind of, be that oversight body that we should have been all along. But anyway, so.
Do we need to meet individually with them, or do you want all the committee chairs to get together?
No, I think the main thing that we've talked about, and I could ask him, he's here, but I don't know if I can hear him. Dr. Carpenter, do you have suggestions? Thank you for coming up on the screen. Do you have suggestions in terms of should all of the committee chairs meet with you first, or would you like to meet with each committee individually, or how do you typically go about getting started?
So the only committee that I'm really turning on the financial side of risk management, the governance committee is, self-directing and knows what to do. And the way that I typically do it is whoever is chairing that, once you've got your committee members set, just get on my website, go through the calendar. For the committee as a whole, and then subsequent to that, if you want me to sort of like guide you through an actual meeting, particularly for the financial oversight committee, that tends to be the one that boards want the most help with, then we can do that as well.
Okay, and thank you. I think you broke up for just one little second, but I think what I heard you say was governance can kind of do their thing. It's very similar to the board development committee that we've had. And the other two, you would like to meet with the committees, and they can go on to that on your online calendar. And you would be happy to lead them through a meeting, particularly for financial oversight. My other question is the risk management oversight committee. I know there's supposed to be a risk management plan, but that's something that you could help Dr. Blackwell with if she has questions.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he has a template, and then I'm also working through one that the state has recently required.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, school risk management plan, it's about a 40-page
Okay.
document, so.
Wow. Can you hear that, Dr. Carpenter? Sorry, she said that the state has recently required a risk management plan that they presented, like a 40-page template that she's required to use. So, so that might be that's just, you guys can work it out. But I'm just saying the risk management for the chair of the risk management committee, oversight committee, that's not gonna, he just needs to work with you on that. So, okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the big request is please go through my website to set that up. It's easy, just a date that works for you, we eliminate all that. What about Tuesday at 2? Well, no, I can't do Tuesday.
Right. Yeah, they can do that before they log on to your online calendar and then go from there. So
All there, yeah.
perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Does that answer questions? Yep. We're good? Okay. All right. I think we're finished with the committee structure then. We do not have anything under ongoing board development and self-assessment. We do need closed session. So I will entertain a motion to move into closed session for personnel discussion pursuant to 140 North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, A1 and A6.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, great. We're gonna go into closed session and we'll be back.